Hello, and welcome to Cheers. That's one woman's opinion. I am your host, Carolyn Mills. Today we are looking at Look Who's Talking rewatch for the anniversary of Kirstie Alley's birthday. Kirstie would have been 75 today. Sadly, she passed away from colon cancer on December 5th, 2022. Look Who's Talking was released in 1989. It was directed and written by Amy Heckerling. Cast includes John Travolta as James Ubriaco, Kirstie Alley as Molly, Olympia Dukakis as Rosie. Dukakis died in 2021 after a long illness. George Segal as Albert. He also died in, I believe, 2021. I have a typo on here and it says 101, but I believe it was also 2021 for him, and his was complications from surgery. Abe Vigoda as Grandpa. Vigoda died in 2016 from natural causes. Bruce Willis as the voice of Mikey. In 2022, he was diagnosed with aphasia. In 2023, the diagnosis was changed to frontotemporal dementia. He's I just wanted to mention that because you know he does such a great job in this as the voice of Mikey. Twink Kaplan as Rona, James Schaller as Mikey, Jared Waterhouse as Mikey, Jacob Haynes as Mikey, and Christopher Aiden as Mikey. There are four for the different ages. I'm not sure which one plays which age, except for I do know that Jacob Haynes was the 1-year-old Mikey. Don S. Davis as Dr. Fleischer. Davis passed away in 2008 from a heart attack. Louis Heckerling as Lou. Louis Heckerling, if I remember correctly, is actually Amy's father, and he is an accountant in real life. David Berner as Mr. Impatience, Jerry Wasserman as Mr. Anal. I have to say, I think Mr. Anal has the best name in this cast as far as the characters go. Nicholas Rice as Harry. And there's others, but as always with movies, it's usually too many to name them all. We'd be here all day. So let's go to our summary. The opening credits come up as we see eggs floating around. Molly is doing Albert's accounting. He puts her hand on her leg. She tells him it's over because he's married. I highlighted some red flags here that Molly should have noticed. One, he's married. That's a big one. Furthermore, she wants him to get a new accountant. Albert says he's going to leave his wife Beth. However, she's bulimic, so he can't leave her yet. Married can't leave. Pretty much same here. Wife, another red flag. She tells him again that she is no longer going to be his accountant. In the process of their talk, she gets her shirt off. He tells her, "Oh God, Molly, I'm going to burst if you don't kiss me soon." I Get Around plays as we see the sperm trying to get into the eggs. This movie has a really good soundtrack. I don't know if it was actually released in the soundtrack or not, but the music is really good. So I mentioned actually quite a few songs. They fit perfectly with what's going on. We hear one sperm, Bruce Willis, talking as he tells the others what to do. He makes it into the egg. Molly is throwing up in the bathroom. Rona tells her she broke up with George. Molly tells Rona that she has the stomach flu that is going around. Rona tells her that there isn't one going around and no one else is sick. Molly tells Rona that Albert is leaving his shrink, but Rona says he needs to leave his life. Molly explains he's going to, but he can't because she's sick, which right at point that was our second. You Need Hands plays as we see Mikey formed in the womb. Mikey is amazed to see he has two hands and they match. Molly shows Rona Albert with his kids using binoculars. I think this is flag number three. The fact that she can't go near him because of his um wife, but yet she's spying on him. So that's saying it. Well, Rona herself says it's sick. Rona calls her sick. Molly is also eating ice cream, which she doesn't even like. Molly is at her parents' house. They are also accountants. She asks her mom what she would do if her dad was married when they met. She says she wouldn't have fallen in love with him. Molly says that you can't help who you fall in love with. Her mom compares it to her father giving up cheesecake because of his cholesterol. Her mother then notes that Molly is eating her cooking, and something must be wrong because Molly has never liked her cooking. Molly takes a pregnancy test, and she is indeed pregnant. The doctor confirms it and checks to see how far along she is. When he presses on her abdomen, Mikey tells him to stop. The doctor tells Molly that at 33, her biological clock is ticking. Molly dreams that Albert has finally left Beth, but they are an old couple now. Then she is hanging on a giant clock screaming. The doctor's the doctor's head appears saying, "Your biological clock is ticking." She slips from the clock and falls toward the ground, but wakes up before she hits it. I would say this is sign number 4. She's dreaming of their future, and in the future, she ends up falling off a giant clock. I mean, obviously it's a dream, but I would say the dream has some kind of meaning. Molly tells Albert that she doesn't know how she got pregnant. However, she's not going to get an abortion. Albert assures her that he wasn't going to ask her to do so. He sings "Having My Baby" to her. Molly says she will tell people she's getting artificially inseminated. I remember being 9 years old when this movie came out in 1989, watching this movie, and my mother having to explain to me what artificially inseminated meant. And I went, ew. That really hasn't changed. It's kind of the same. Good bit cooties on them. Molly's mom is angry that her daughter would get artificially inseminated. Rosie says that only ugly women and lesbians would do that. But Molly is an attractive woman. Rosie refers to the father as a frozen pup. She asks Mo she asks Molly about the sperm donor. Molly makes up a medical student from Columbia University, and Rosie realizes her daughter is making fun of her. Time passes as the song As She Was plays. We see Molly preparing for the delivery on the arrival of the new kid as she gets bigger. Rona reads about the pregnancy and the formation of the sex organs. Mikey sees what he thinks is another arm growing between his legs. Molly goes in to see Albert. She has to wait as he is in with his interior decorator, Melissa. She leaves and Molly goes in, dropping her stuff. They kiss. She asks if he thinks the other woman is pretty. He denies and tells her about the new decorating plans. Number 5 in our signs. She doesn't trust him because he's with another woman, and she has to question him. And the reason is most people, and yes, I'm saying people in the Albert's a man because women do it too, that will cheat on their significant other will cheat on the person they cheated with. So we're up to 5 warning signs that Albert's trash. Molly is eating chips, and Albert tells her not to gain too much weight. He says that Beth only gained 21 pounds. Molly is annoyed being compared with his wife. She informs him that she quit Lamaze. He mentions Beth again, and Molly flips out about how sick she is of hearing about Beth, how different they are, and adds, and to top it all off, you're still with her. Sign number 6. You are upset that the guy you're dating is still with his wife. Another clue, there's an issue. Albert shows a receipt. He has his own place now, but Molly can't come to see him yet. Sign number 7. He's now left the wife, and yet you still can't come and see him. Something's not right, especially when he's the father of your child. Molly and Rona are walking. Molly has to pee again, so they go into a store. Rona tries on a dress. Molly calls Albert a family man, and Rona tells her, except he's in somebody else's family. I'm going to count that as sign number 8. We may have actually talked about that already. Um, but I don't care what's mentioned again, so we're going with number 8. Molly tells her that Albert loves her, and that's why he is leaving his wife. And she says she and Albert are having a baby. They hear a woman in the changing stall say, "Stop that." Rona says it sounds like the people in the stall are. Albert and Melissa appear behind the curtain. Molly runs out. Albert chases after her. Rowan and Melissa follow. The sales lady comes out of the store. She informs Rowan and Melissa they need to take their clothes back, or she's calling the police. Now, I have to talk about Melissa for a second because this is the first time I caught that. I always knew Rona had a dress on from the store. First time I caught when she said, "You both have to bring the dress back," referring to Melissa. There's something seriously not right with Melissa that she thinks it's okay to put on a dress at a store to do things with a married man who, well, she wouldn't know about Molly, but she knows she's married. So she's doing this, they're doing this in a store in a dress that's not hers, and then she doesn't buy the dress. Yeah, Melissa, not quite right either. Albert tells Molly that he's in love with Melissa. Yeah, that's definitely another red flag. So what are we up to? Six, seven, eight. No, nine. We did eight, right? So nine. He tells her that Beth knows and he's going to live with Melissa. Molly hits him. Molly has some anger issues because she's constantly hitting people in this movie. She might want to work on that. Molly comes out and jumps on Albert's back as Molly goes into labor. In all fairness, I do understand why she'd hit Albert. That's, but she hits everyone. I mean, she just, we'll see it throughout the movie. She gets a taxi driven by James Ubriaco. James realizes that she's in labor and drives like a maniac to get her to the hospital. But then they get stuck in traffic. Molly's water breaks and James drives through the roadblock. James offers to call her husband or her boyfriend. She tells him that if he needs to know her life story, she was artificially inseminated. James says, "What? Are you a lesbo?" They arrive at the hospital. She starts smacking him and telling him and yelling at him. Another contraction comes and he tries to help her in the hospital. She says to him, "Don't touch me. I will just have this baby without you touching me." Molly tells the receptionist that she's in labor. The woman asks for Molly's insurance card. This sounds about right. They like to get your insurance no matter what's wrong. Molly is stressed out as it's her first labor. A doctor tells them to get her upstairs. Thinking that James is the father, they have him put on one of the sterile gowns before going in with Molly for the delivery. In the delivery room, Molly screams. She asks for drugs for the pain. The nurse tells her, "Slow down, focus on your breathing." Molly suddenly sounds like she needs an exorcist, which James comments on. I looked up to see if Kirstie Alley was doing the exorcist sounding needing voice there. From what I read, she is, but I'm not completely sure still. I think I saw it on AI. But if anybody knows if somebody dubbed that part or if she actually did make her voice sound like she needs an exorcist, because that's pretty impressive. She begs James to get her drugs. James runs into the hall and finds a doctor for Molly. The doctor gets info. He asks Molly if she's doing her Lamaze breathing. She tells him she dropped out, but she'll take makeups, even go to summer school, if he will make the pain stop. The doctor says he can give her a shot of Demerol. Molly wants a lot, so it doesn't wear her off before the baby comes out. Once he injects her, the meds kick in immediately, and Molly is happy, as is Mikey. Mikey sees a light. He wonders what it is, and the doctor tells Molly to push. She does, and Mikey comes out. And I always love in movies and TV how fast deliveries happen. One push, the kid's out. And she literally just got to the hospital. And from what I've never had kids, but from what I've read, the first child takes longer. Um, because he kind of has to pave the way, I guess. So that always amuses me how fast children are born in movies and television. Mikey cries, begging to go back inside. He then cries because he's cold. Then he's upset when they cut his umbilical cord, saying, "I need that thing." He asks for a blanket. They swaddle him and lay next to Molly. Anytime, as I'm talking here, when I say that Mikey is talking, it's actually Bruce Willis. The baby obviously is not talking. There is a scene later when the actual child does talk, and I'll let you know when that comes up. Oh, the place. Oh, yeah. Mikey is in the nursery with the other babies. We hear all of them thinking out loud, trying to make sense of life on the outside of the womb. Several fathers are looking at their babies. Molly tells Mikey that he won't find his father there, but she apologizes and promises to find him a daddy. Molly is now home with Mikey. Mikey is working on opening and closing his hands. He is happy he has mastered it. Molly goes into the bathroom. She is shocked at how large her breasts have become. She looks it up in the book Rhoda was reading earlier. It says 3 or 4 days after giving birth, the breast might swell slightly. She comments, "Slightly? I look like a Russ Meyer movie." I looked this up because I've never heard of Russ Meyer, and he was a film director known for exploiting big-breasted women. I was also amazed that it says 3 or 4 days after giving birth. She was not in the hospital very long at all. It's like the kid came out and they sent her home. The doorbell rings and Molly rushes out to answer it. It's James. She apologizes to him for hitting him when she was in labor. She also tells him that she knows she owes him for cab fare, but someone stole her wallet while she was in the hospital. Then she asks him how he knows where she lives, and he hands her the wallet, explaining he left it in the cab. James lights a cigarette. She tells him not to smoke around the baby, giving him stats about smoking and cancer. James replies, "What are you trying to say? You don't want me to move in yet, or what?" James asks if Molly thinks the drugs affected Mikey. Molly thinks Mikey looks perfect. James tells her, "You don't look so hot either." She tells him, "Why don't you try squeezing something the size of a watermelon out of the side, opening the size of a lemon, and see how hot you look?" Molly asks James to keep an eye on Mikey so he can get dressed. She tells him not to pick Mikey up or touch him too much. James introduces himself to Mikey. He asks Molly questions and she snaps at him. So James teaches Mikey about coffee. He explains that coffee regular has two sugars and a milk in it. Since the store forgot the milk, he puts some of the milk from the bottle in his coffee. He takes a sip as Molly returns from the bedroom and tells him, "You know that's breast milk." James spits the coffee out and he leaves. That evening, Mikey tells the animals on his mobile that he's wet. Realizing that the mobile is not going to help him, he cries. Molly comes in with a bottle. Mikey catches on that his mom will come running every time he cries. An exhausted Molly pours coffee into the bottle. When she tests the temperature, she realizes what she did. Molly reads about postpartum depression. She decides she won't have that, and then she's crying over a commercial. Kirstie Alley, in my opinion, is the best crier ever. I mean, she does it at the drop of a hat and produces real tears every time. Amazing. But then again, if you're familiar and I think about it, and I don't know if she does this, but I could see this happening. Her mother was killed in a car accident when she first got her first movie, Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. Very funny story. Not that she died, but the story that follows that she tells about it. If you haven't heard it, I'll just tell it to you. Now that she's going to be there to tell you. Um, so what happened is her sister called her to tell her there's been a car accident, dad's in the hospital, and mom has already died. Her father had a club lung. He did survive. I think he was in his 90s when he died. I think he was definitely in his 90s. I'm just not sure if he's alive or not. But I believe he died around the same time she did, or slightly before. Anyway, she asked her sister, for some unknown reason, where were they going? Her sister said to a costume party, and probably in shock because for some reason, Kirsty's next question was, "What were they dressed as?" The sister said, "The Odd Couple," and in her head, she's thinking Jack Klugman and Tony Randall, The Odd Couple, or Walter Matthau, John Lennon, not John Lennon, John Lemon, sorry, John Lemon. So she's, "What do you mean The Odd Couple?" Her sister said dad was dressed as a black man and mom was dressed as someone from the KKK. Okay, I appreciate that that's going to offend some of you. I'm just relaying the story, okay? But in a sense, it was kind of funny because that is definitely an odd couple if you think about it. These two people going anywhere together. Um, so that she talks about her mother's sense of humor, and that's where she got her sense of humor from. But I also wonder if she can draw on that in the whole needing to cry in a spur of the moment thing, because it still has to be hard to lose your mother. I know I've lost mine, and I lost her in 2009, and I still cry. So I'm actually curious about that because she must be drawing on something to make her cry so easily and have all those tears, which she's very, like I said, she's very good at it. So back to the summary here. Mikey cries because he has gas. She burps him and declares he has an exotic baby disease and things can't get worse. Her mother comes in and Molly says, I was wrong. Rosie introduces herself to her grandson. Mikey is wet, so his grandmother takes him to change him. He wants powder put on him. Rosie tells Molly to go out of the house and she will take care of Mikey. She talks baby talk to Mikey, and Mikey says, oh, yeah, she's gone. Molly is walking with Rona. She's telling Rona what she is looking for in a man. She then dates Mr. Impatient, who yells at the waitress. She pictures him yelling at Mikey the same way. Then she goes on a date with Mr. Anal from the health club. She pictures him getting on Mikey's case for mixing colored socks with white socks in the same drawer. She returns home. James is pulling mail out of her mailbox in the hall. He sees her and stops. Molly asks if someone called for a cab. He says, yeah, how about that? Small world. Molly says that she got more mail from for Vincent Ubriaco. James shows her where to put the mail. That's not hers. He puts on top, where the mail goes in the hall. There's a thing on top there. She leaves to go into her apartment and he grabs the mail. Molly yells at him for stealing her mail. He explains that it's his and Vincent Ubriaco is his grandfather. He was kicked out of an old age home. They found a new place in Manhattan, but you have to be a resident. But James lives in Englewood, New Jersey. John Travolta is actually was born in Englewood. He wanted to use Molly's address so Grandpa can get the new home, but Molly refuses to help him. James offers to do something for her, babysit Mikey. She tells him he doesn't know how to take care of a baby. He explains he practically raised his sister's kids. He agrees to Friday nights and two aerobic classes and not having any women over. Mikey yells, sucker. Molly wants Mikey to take a nap. James says that Mikey is not even tired. Molly rants about how great Dr. Spock is. James tells Mikey that Molly is upset about a Vulcan. If you don't get that, watch Star Trek. He then asks Molly for the other letters. He goes and tells he goes and gets them in the hallway, and by the time he comes back, Molly is asleep. James carries Molly into her bedroom and covers her up. He takes Mikey for a ride to let Molly sleep. He tells Mikey that when he's older, he'll teach him how to drive. Mikey observes what James does and decides is easy and he can do it. He takes Mikey to the airport to get his schedule. Molly wakes up and panics when she finds Mikey missing. She searches the house and then calls the police. Ooh, okay, nose itching. James tells James takes Mikey to visit Vincent Ubriaco, Grandpa. Vincent is watching It's a Wonderful Life. He tells James that he didn't know he has a baby. Mikey is impressed that he has more teeth than Vincent, and he's fascinated with Vincent's bushy eyebrows. Mikey and James return to Molly's apartment. She is happy to see her son, and then she clobbers James. More hitting. She gets a splinter in her finger while hitting him with a broom. James gets a needle and takes it out. Rosie arrives at that moment, and Molly says, I never had one that big in me. Of course, Rosie misunderstands. James leaves, and Rosie asks, is he the frozen? He's not the frozen pop, is he? We then get a montage as we see Mikey growing into a 1 year old. The song When I Grow Up to Be a Man plays. Molly asks her mom if she ever gets bored with her dad. Rosie asks how could she get bored with him. Molly says that Mikey needs a man. I'm supposed to be a dad. And Rosie sets her up with an accountant named Harry. Harry comes and Molly goes to change. He sits on the couch next to Mikey. Mikey is watching The Bear Show. It's a Snuggles dryer sheet commercial. Harry turns to an NFL playoff game. He and Mikey fight over TV, and Mikey tells him, "You're a dick." I debated whether or not quoting that line, but Bruce Willis's voice saying that line with the little boy playing Mikey is the cutest thing ever. Because the kid looks so innocent, and then you hear this, "You're a dick." Oh, come on. It's just, I love that line. And the little boy laughs at the right time when he says it, too. It's great. Molly comes into the hall looking for James. He jumps out and scares her. She calls him a goofball, and he explains he's dressed up for a date he has later. He tells her she's dating an accountant, so she'll be home by 9:30 tops. James meets Harry. James tells him that Molly is tough, then explains she doesn't like men holding doors for her or picking up the tab. Harry asks if she's a liberated woman, and James replies, "Come on, a guy babysitter?" Molly says goodbye to Mikey. James tells Mikey to pull off Harry's toupee. He motions like this, and Mikey does what he tells him. Harry is embarrassed, but both Molly and James say he looks better without it. They leave, and James high fives Mikey. Sitting out of my chair. All right. Molly is bored out of her mind as Harry talks about an upper GI and his gallstones. Really not appropriate first date talk. He lets Molly pay the bill. James is dancing with Mikey. Harry lets Molly pay for the taxi ride and the movie tickets. After the date, Molly learns that James is responsible for her bad date. She comes in and is frustrated seeing a mess in the kitchen. She finds James and Mikey asleep on the couch. She tells James that he can go on his date. He does not wake up, so she covers him up and lets them sleep. A man picks a man picks up one of the kids. Mikey asks who the man is. The little girl explains that he's the daddy, and Mikey decides he's going to ask James to be his daddy. Molly's getting ready to feed Mikey. He's now eating like cereal. She is dancing to Town Without Pity. James comes in and dances with her. Mikey claps. James wants Molly to go with him to help his grandfather get into the new home. They all take James's taxi cab. He suggests they go to Northeastern Life Insurance for Life because they give their employees free lunches. And he tells her that he probably knows at least 20 different ways to get a free lunch in Manhattan. Also, he does not pay for long distance calls. He calls them LDs. He explains that he's only driving the taxi because he does not make enough as a flight instructor. At most, he makes 1,100 a month, but he accumulates airtime. Sorry. Grandpa is upset someone has his bag with the teeth in it. James assures him his teeth are fine. They arrive at the new place and Grandpa thinks it's a restaurant and asks if they have good shrimp. James pays an orderly to keep the bag of candy and only let his grandfather have one a day. The orderly tells him, no problem. James eats a bite of his grandfather's food to get Grandpa to eat it. Vincent tells them the woman has thousands more nerves in her sexual organs than a man. James laughs, but then Grandpa says, and I bet the kid's not even yours. James warns him to be nice. Now, here is a sign that James is really the right man. He does not deny that Mikey is his child when his grandfather says, I bet he's not even yours. He didn't say, no, no, he's not mine. He just lets him think it. And later on, he does say, I don't think I put this line in here. He says, I'm a better father than Elmer. So we see it's progressing. Mikey decides to help Vincent with his eating. which is also another really cute scene. He says that Grandpa's he says he's even worse at this than I am, and then he helps him. They leave. James kisses Molly on the cheek and thanks her. He asks her to go flying with him. She thinks that would be too expensive for him, but he knows how to do it for free. She says that he's like some sort of a con artist. James tells her, "Baby, think about it. If we were poor, we could still live like kings." Molly says she's not going to fly. We got another sign here. He says we could live like kings, implying he sees the future with her. They are in the plane. Molly asks them where the parachutes are, and even more scared when she learns that there aren't any. She asks him if his wing is smoking. James yells and says it was a joke to relax her. I don't see how yelling in a panic tone is a good way to relax somebody already scared, but maybe that's me. He then gives her a flying lesson. He tells her to take the stick, adding that it's not a sexual thing. Molly is excited when she realizes she's flying the plane. They return to Molly's apartment. They put Mikey in his crib. He's out cold. And then they simultaneously ask each other a question and then answer it the same way. They laugh and then kiss. They go into Molly's room. She takes off her shirt. As they are making out on the bed, she pictures them together with several kids. James refers to them as the royal family. He brings free food from home. Then he keeps burping, and the kids laugh. Molly does too. Molly snaps back to reality and says, "Wait a minute." She knocks James off the bed when she moves. She explains she really wants to do it, but she has to think of Mikey. James tells her, "I'm crazy about Mikey, and I'm crazy about you." She pushes him out the door. This made me think this is actually another sign that things are going to work out because with Mr. Impatient and Mr. Anal, it was just Mikey in the picture. They didn't have any other kids. Here she's producing a whole mess of kids with James, which makes me think that she sees the future with him and she sees procreation with him. Molly gets scolded by her boss at the account firm. She has to keep Albert as a client. You know what? I may have made a mistake. Lou may have not been the father. Lou may have been the boss. I'm not sure. Heckling has a few relatives in this movie, and but either way, it's one of the accountants. But I think it's father, but it may have been the boss. Either way, father's really an accountant. Molly dreams that Albert wants her back. He tells her, "I'll burst if I don't kiss you soon." Molly tells him, "Tough." Dream Albert's head explodes. She goes in and he asks her about Mikey. She says he's not talking, but he is walking. She informs him that she's not there to talk, only to do taxes. He keeps calling Mikey Mickey. She snaps at him. He explains that he's nervous and asks to see a picture of Mikey. Then he asks to meet Mikey, and Molly concedes. Molly and James are playing blackjack. Sorry, I made a mistake there. Mikey and James are playing blackjack. Mikey says he wants James to be his daddy. There's a knock at the door. It's Albert. He tells James that he's Mikey's father. James, believing Molly's artificially inseminated, does not believe Albert. He asks Albert a ton of rapid fire questions. Albert cannot answer any of them. James asks him, "Don't you think a father should know some of these things?" Albert and James get into a fight, and Mikey cheers on James. Mikey comes home. Wow, those Dems, I keep reading them wrong. Molly comes home. Mikey is holding an ice pack on James's head. James asks her who Albert is and then adds, "You lied to me about that artificial insemination crap." Now, his attitude here is not so great. First of all, he's the babysitter. They're not actually dating at this point. Granted, they did make out, but they are not dating. And she even chased him away the day they made out. So nothing major happened. And when he met her is when in the taxi cab that day when she was in labor is when she said she was artificially inseminated. So that was a while ago, and he has the right to be angry at this point. She explains Albert was married. James asks if she still loves Albert. Molly admits she doesn't know who she loves. However, she says all that matters is what's best for Mikey. She adds that Albert is successful, responsible, and good with kids. James says he doesn't want Albert to see Mikey again. They get into a huge argument. Molly asks her mom if a person can go through a bad phase and then be good again. Rosie doesn't know. Molly asks how she knew her dad would be a good father when they first met. Rosie again doesn't know. Didn't know. Said she didn't know. She just liked how he looked in his uniform. Molly is then grossed out when her mom talks about sex with her dad. James comes over to see Mikey. He tells him that he doesn't think he can keep coming over anymore. He says that Molly doesn't think that he would be a good enough father for Mikey. And then he tells Mikey about his own father and advice that he gave him. He tells Mikey that Mikey is his best friend and that he will miss him. Mikey says, "Don't be sad. Here, take this." He hands James his little stuffed panda. Another really beautiful scene between Mikey and James. Very beautiful. John Travolta did a great job in that scene. Molly gets Mikey ready to see Albert. Mikey thinks they are going to see James because he at this point thinks James is now his daddy. They get to Albert's and Mikey squirts milk from his bottle into Albert's eyes. He yells, "Bullseye." Albert does not want Mikey touching things that look like toys. Albert tells Molly that he still loves her, but he does not want to be a dad. He tells her, "I raised my kids." Molly tells him they're 11 and 9. Not to mention, which they leave out, Mikey is his kid, whether he likes it or not. Mikey is pooping. Molly changes him on Albert's desk. Albert tells her, "Don't do that. Here, it's a $10,000 desk." Molly throws the diaper on the desk, poop side down, and yells, "Now it's junk." Albert is angry. Molly says, "I understand you are going through a selfish phase, and I know you will understand I am going through a destructive phase." She takes Mikey's stroller and breaks that clown figurine that Albert has in his office. Mikey breaks the toy he was playing earlier and yells, "Yeah, let's trash the place." Molly tells Mikey that he never has to see Albert again, referring to him as that mean man. She tells Mikey that everyone loves him and lists all the people who love him. When they get to James, she asks, "Mikey, do you love James?" Mikey hands Molly the toy telephone and says, "Call him." The real phone rings, so Molly gives Mikey his toy phone back and answers the real one. Lou Franklin at the home says there's a problem with Grandpa, who is getting violent with the staff. Molly goes to Vincent, who is yelling that he's a hostage and that the staff have his wife, Dora. Molly says she will get Dora and cleans Vincent's face. He tells her, "Of all my daughters in law, you are my favorite. You're smart and you're a good person. That's why Jimmy loves you so much." I'll say another foreshadowing here. Mikey holds up a picture of James, and Vincent puts Mikey on his lap to show him more pictures. Molly goes down to talk to Lou. The staff member, who Vincent was yelling at earlier, tells her he will keep an eye on Mikey and Vincent. Molly explains to Lou that the orderly agreed to give Grandpa one candy a day. When James asked him, he said, "No problem." Lou says that was Bill. He always says no problem because that is all he knows how to say in English. He says that Grandpa can stay. Molly leaves the office and finds James in the hallway. She tells him Grandpa can stay, and he doesn't, and he says that she didn't have to do that, but she says she wanted to. The orderly keeping an eye out of Grandpa and on Grandpa and Mikey leaves the room. Um, I'm thinking at this point they probably could have sued this place because um he agreed and said, "I will keep an eye on them till you get back." He should not have left a 1 year old with Grandpa, even if Grandpa said he could handle it. He just saw a little while ago Grandpa flipping out, how we know that Grandpa's not going to lose it with a little baby. And obviously, this causes some problems. Grandpa walks out to get Esther. Mikey sees the cab and thinks it's James and decides to go after him. He gets on the elevator and pushes all of the buttons like kids do. While when it opens, he climbs on the fruit cart that he sees. James, Molly, Grandpa, and Esther return to the room. They frantically search for Mikey. Mikey asks some elderly women in the cafeteria if they've seen his dad. One of them gives him a breadstick. Mikey goes outside and sees a car hooked to a tow truck. He sets his toy on the ground and climbs into the car. Mike uses his breadstick as a key. The tow truck takes off, so Mikey thinks he's driving the car. James and Molly come out and see him in the back of the car and get into James' taxicab. James turns down an alley to cut the tow truck off. Molly is afraid they'll lose him, and James tells her, "Trust me, I know this alley like I know the back of my hand." They catch up to the tow truck, but Mikey is no longer in the car. Molly yells at the tow truck driver frantically. James sees Mikey in the intersection. He calls, "Mikey, Mikey, don't move." Molly yells, "Mikey." Mikey runs to them as they run towards Mikey. It was kind of a dumb thing for them to yell to Mikey and then tell him not to move because logic says at that age the little boy is going to run to his parents. James grabs him as the cars crash into each other, trying to avoid Mikey. Molly checks her son over she sets him on a newspaper box. She can't believe he doesn't have any scratches, but she thinks she should still take him to the hospital. But James tells her he's a tough kid. Mikey says he wants James to be the daddy. Molly thanks James. Mikey, in his real voice, which is the actor Haynes, I think that's how you pronounce his name, who plays Mikey, actually says this line. He says, "Dada." Molly says, "I think he called you Dada." Mikey, now we're back to Bruce Willis doing the voiceover for Mikey, says, "No, I'm talking to hear myself speak." James says Mikey thinks that he and Molly will probably end up together. Then he and Molly kiss. Mikey says, "Boy, I hope they don't get stuck together like that." He decides to let them kiss and not tell him he needs a new diaper yet. The credits come up and we see the egg and sperm again. James takes a 2-year-old Mikey to meet his new sister, Julie, and then the credits continue. I gave this movie 5 out of 5 beer nuts. Some of my listeners may recall this movie is the reason I started watching Cheers. I saw the movie and thought that Kirstie Alley was the greatest thing ever. I saw the 200th episode of Cheers on TV, saw Kirstie Alley in the panel. I started watching Cheers and never stopped. I watched Look Who's Talking the first time because John Travolta, who I first saw in Grease, which came out 2 years after was born. So I guess you could say John Travolta is why I watched Cheers. The movie is so well written. Kirstie Alley and John Travolta lead an amazing cast, including Bruce Willis, the voice of Mikey. And how cute are those baby actors that play Mikey in the different stages? Of course, the MVP is Kirstie Alley. I've said throughout the thing, she's phenomenal. She can go from happy to sad like that, and um, she just I can't even talk. She is amazing. I think she's one of the greatest actresses ever. She's in my top three. She may be my top one. It changed. That does change sometimes. It's her, Marley Matlin, and Julia Roberts. Those are my top three favorite actresses. Definitely my favorite TV actress. But I love all of her movies. She's just, I mean, amazing what she can do. And playing a neurotic, as those of you who've seen her on Cheers know, she does it perfectly. For best dressed, I gave to James Ubriaco. When she's going on the date with the bald accountant, Harry there, ironic name. He comes in that Travolta comes in that suit. James Ubriaco, obviously, hot, incredibly hot. Um, Incidentally, John Travolta is one of my favorite actors. So seeing these two together was even better. And while I gave this 5 out of 5 stars, and this is not a popular opinion, I understand. Look Who's Talking 2, the first sequel, is actually my favorite of the trilogy. It's that one, then Look Who's Talking that we just reviewed here, and then Look Who's Talking Now is my least favorite, but I love that one too. I think all three of them are just amazing. Grand Slam line between Albert and Molly when he meets his son for the first time. He has my eyes. I know he does. You have no idea how confusing it is to love someone so much who looks like someone you hate. On baseline, this is the line when Molly and James are fighting when he says he doesn't want Albert to see him, to see Albert. When he says he doesn't want Albert to see Mikey. There we go. So it's between James and Molly. James says, "That's it. I've had it. Now get out. I live here. I know it." Here's a little known fact. In the movie, Molly is scared when James takes her flying. John Travolta does have his pilot's license. And, just like Molly, Kirstie Alley did suffer from aerophobia, which is fear of flying. If you like this episode, please join our Facebook group. Cheers, that's one woman's opinion. Please follow us on Instagram at Cheers One Woman's Opinion Podcast. All right, one thing anyway. Twitter X at One Woman's Opinion. Join the Reddit group, Cheers Rewatch Podcast. That's a really good one to join. That's usually one of the first ones that gets things. And also, you can email us at Cheers One Woman's Opinion Podcast at gmail.com. Oh, and I forgot to show this when I was doing it for those of you watching. This is Kirstie Alley 19. Of course, I can't find the date. Well, it's in the 90. Oh, 1991. This was the October 1991 episode of one of my favorite pictures of her. Those eyes are just beautiful. She has also great eyes and hair. I'll tell you, she's an awesome person. So sad that she passed away. And let me tell you, I cried a lot. On Thursday, Cheers Season 2, Episode 19, Coach Buries a Grudge. And a week from today, another Cheers bonus episode, birthday for Nicholas, birthday anniversary, sorry, for Nicholas Colasanto. And I'll be announcing on Thursday what thing that he did is going to be what we watch so that people can still vote. And I did say that people can, he only did 6 movies, so it's okay if they picked episodes of other shows that he was in. And reminder, if you want a chance to play the Cheers Trivia 2 game and maybe win a prize, please email at Cheers One Woman's Opinion Podcast at gmail.com. And that's One Woman's Opinion.